Today, we're going to talk about some of my favorite horror novellas. Let's be honest, we don't always have the time to read a giant book, and sometimes it's nice just to have a smaller book that you can pick up. You can read it in a few hours, or you could read it over the week or whatever if you just don't have the time to read a giant horror book. Seems to be normally how it goes with me. Like, my top three are my top three, but the rest of them, honestly, they're not really in a particular order. First up, we have I Can See Your Lies by Izzy Lee. This book is super weird. It had a little bit of that like Lynchian kind of horror vibe going on. Finn's reality is crumbling. Her husband has abandoned her. She's now a single mom to a 9-year-old daughter. Her Los Angeles home is sweltering and she's being haunted by disturbing hallucinations that make life a waking nightmare. Are the visions a product of stress, trauma, psychosis, or something else? The answers to those questions become more clear when Finn starts digging up dark secrets that are connected to her mother's cold case disappearance, a once rising actress who mysteriously vanished in 1979. Will Finn slowly unravel the truth, or will it remain hidden forever beneath the glitz and glamour of illusion? I love me a good weird hallucinatory type story, and this is great. Okay, so after that one, we have a book called Ling Hoon by Ai Jun. This book I read a few years back, and I really liked the whole concept of it. It was very unique. This follows the characters Wenshi, Liam, and Mrs. to this mysterious town of Home. It's a place where the dead live again as spirits conjured by the grief-sick population that refuses to let them go. So, like, they move into these houses, and people that have passed on, their spirits are kind of like in the house, and they can see them again. It was such a strange and haunting story. Getting one of these houses, there's just an insane wait for them. It's a story about grief. It's a story about letting go and like how hard people will hold on, just refuse to let go and to live their lives and almost become like a zombie or a shell of themselves. And it was just very moving and emotional and an absolutely fantastic, haunting little novella. A lot of these books too, I do have standalone reviews for, and I will also, for the ones I have standalones for, I'll link those down below in the video description too if you want a little more in depth on each of these. So I love weird books. I also love cryptids. One of my favorite cryptids is Mothman. He's right behind me, right here on the shelf. So one of my favorite little novellas is called Below by Laurel Hightower, and you guessed it, Mothman's in it. It's about this woman. There's this one night, and she's driving through the mountains of West Virginia during a late night snowstorm. Recently divorced, and she experiences bizarre electrical problems in her car, and that leaves her with little choice but to put her trust in this charismatic truck driver. She had met him at a truck stop. They had talked briefly, and they're going through this snowstorm, and he's like, yeah, if you want to follow me through the storm to get to the next spot, whatever. As they're going along, they see an unexplainable creature with haunting red eyes that gets between them. And then she's forced to make one of the toughest decisions of her life because the truck she was following totally jackknifes and goes over the side. She has to figure out, okay, am I going to stay in my car or try to get help or go down there or whatever? So she has to decide, like, is she going to go try to help this stranger and climb down and save him? And then, the story continues and some really weird stuff happens. If you like cryptids and Mothman and strange stories, Below by Laurel Hightower is an absolute gem of a book. This next one is dark and poetic and disturbing and eerie, and that is The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. And it is basically like a dark fairy tale, but it's very lyrical at the same time. You may think you know how the fairy tale goes. A mermaid comes to shore, weds the prince. But what the fables forget is that mermaids have teeth. And now her daughters have devoured the kingdom and burned it to ashes. On the run, the mermaid is joined by a mysterious plague doctor with a darkness of their own. Deep in the eerie snow-crusted forest, the pair stumble upon a village of ageless children who thirst for blood, and the 3 saints who control them. Not very saintly people. Maybe you would have guessed this. The mermaid and her doctor must embrace the cruelest parts of their true nature if they hope to survive. All right, next we have a vampire book. I love me a good vampire book. And this one was able to pack a great story in less than 100 pages, and that is Our Own Unique Affliction by Scott J. Moses. This follows the story of Alice Ann, and she's a dejected immortal who longs for her life in the sun. But she has a lot of guilt, and she has to navigate loss, family, meaning, and all that comes with the curse of living forever. It is the story of she gets caught and what happens after that. I thought the story was unique, packed with emotion, hallucinatory, and was a great vampire novella. I feel like a lot of these are really weird and off the wall. So another one, and this one also strange AF, and it's great, is In the Valley of the Headless Men by L.P. Hernandez. And this is the story of two brothers, and they hear about this strange park where apparently giants might still exist and there might still be woolly mammoths. And they had just lost their mother and they're going through some stuff. So Nahanni National Park is one of the last truly wild places on Earth. It's accessible only by plane and only when the weather cooperates. It's the perfect place for estranged brothers Joseph and Oscar to have an adventure following the death of their mother Jillian. Joseph's first love invites herself along in the spirit of friendship. The park is much more than beautiful. It's mysterious with legends of giant and hidden prehistoric animals. And among its few visitors, an outsized number of violent deaths inspire its second most seductive name, the Valley of Headless Men. There's a lot of just strange hallucinatory stuff that happens where reality kind of just bends and what they experience and see isn't what may be reality. And it's also about the emotional context of it and how the brothers deal with the death of their mother, but also the relationship between them. Okay, so another genre of horror that I absolutely love is underwater horror. So this next book is called Lure by Tim McGregor, and it is a mermaid horror. In the chapel of a forsaken fishing village on another world's shore, the sea-washed bones of old gods hang from the rafters. When a new god drifts into the bay, the menfolk fear nothing as they reach for their spears, but capturing her may be the last act of reckless bravado. Her very presence brings dissent and madness. Her voice threatens to tear the starving, angry community apart, setting a siege of relentless horror against the backdrop of brine and blood. Lure blurs the line between natural disaster and self-destruction. All right, now we're getting into the top 3. Much excite. The next one is just a very mind-bending, Lynchian, emotional novella. It's strange and eerie and very haunting, and that is Coup de Grace by Sophia Ajaram. So this centers around the themes of suicide, places in between. It's very moving, it's very emotional, it's a very powerful little novella. So Vicken has a plan. Throw himself into the St. Lawrence River in Montreal and end it all for good, believing it to be the only way out for him after a lifetime of depression and pain. But stepping off the subway, he finds himself in an endless looping station. Determined to find a way out again, he starts to explore the rooms and corridors ahead of him, but no matter how many claustrophobic hallways or vast cathedral-esque rooms he passes through, the exit is nowhere in sight. The more he explores his strange new prison, the more he becomes convinced that he hasn't been trapped there accidentally. And amongst the shadows and concrete, he comes to realize that he almost certainly is not alone. All right, in the number 2 spot, we have a book about a very deranged and unhinged woman. That book is Victorian Psycho by Virginia Fito. What a flippin' book. So, Winifred Naughty, or Fred, as she likes to be called, arrives at Enzer House prepared to play the perfect governess. She'll dutifully tutor her charges, Drusilla and Andrew, tell them bedtime stories, and only joke about eating the children. But long, listless days spent within the estate's dreary confines come with an intimate knowledge of the perversions and pathetic preoccupations of the Pounds family. Mrs. Pounds takes a sickly pleasure in punishing Winifred and her husband's wandering gaze. Compounded with her disdain for the entitled Pounds children, Winifred finds herself struggling at every turn to stifle the violent compulsions of her past. French tutoring and needlework are one way to pass the time, as is admiring the ugly portraits in the gallery, or creeping across the moonlit lawns. But patience. Winifred must have patience, for Christmas is coming, and she has very special gifts planned for the dear souls of the Enzer house. And what do you think those gifts are? They're definitely not good. Oh no. Yeah, this is a wonderfully deranged book. Okay, so my number one horror novella is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. The writing in this is so picturesque and luscious and vivid and just absolutely brilliant. It's so darkly deranged. As a forewarning, there is cannibalism in it. So if you do not like to read horror that involves some cannibalism, this book may not be for you. This follows the story. Rosemary meets Ash at the farmer's market. Ash, precise, pretty, and practically perfect, sells bars of soap in delicate pastel colors, sprinkles spackled cupcakes stacked on scallop stands, beeswax candles, jelly jars of honey, and glossy green plants. Ro has never felt this way about another woman. With Ash, she wants to be her and to have her in equal measure. But as her obsession with Ash consumes her, she may find she's not the one doing the devouring. And this is such a darkly deranged, devastating, and delicious book all at the same time. You ever just read a book and you're like so entranced or enchanted by the writing? The writing is enchanting. Darkly, effed up, and enchanting. Do you have any favorite horror novellas? Let me know, because I'm always looking for more, especially because, it's nice to have like a short little book that you can pick up and get through in a fairly short amount of time. I like and I'm always impressed when someone can like fit a story in such a small amount of pages. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.